This is going to be kind of a little bit of a follow-up of where Wayne was going yesterday with the whole potential of, is this a soul trap? What's going on with this world we live in? What are we living in? And what are the forces that are driving our consciousness, and how does that work? We're just asking a lot of questions. And I thought with that, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information on something I've been looking at a little bit. And it's essence. It's like, what is essence? What is soul? What is spirit? What are all these things? And how do we identify with them into a position where we can actually utilize the power that they have? So I hope some people are getting into chat. Oh, I see you, Chloe. Hi, love. How are you? Okay, so I hope you guys liked Wayne's. It was fun to do today, and I loved the conversation. Hi, Grace. It's so good to see you. God, you are such a beautiful soul. I love you all. So I thought I'd get into essence. And it's like, what is essence? I was like, I know what essence is, but I kind of want to know, well, what is the definition of essence? Chloe, I'm so glad you are. Oh, thank you. Hi, Ginger. So good to see you. I'm so glad people are starting to come in. So today I wanted to go over what is essence. So I looked at the definition of essence. And the spiritual metaphysical definition states, it is the substance in which all things exist, of which all things are made. Hi, Mr. Floyd Universe. Good to see you. So that was the spiritual meaning and the metaphysical. And then I went into the esoteric meaning of what is essence. Esoteric meaning of essence is the fundamental, intrinsic nature of something, often described as its core true being. It goes beyond superficial or the material aspects, and it delves into the very source of existence. Whether a person, a thing, or a concept, the inner truth is often seen as unchanging, and it is essential to the identity of whatever it is describing. Example of essence. It might be called core identity, the soul, spirit, or the divine nature. So that is what I was drawn into, was like, what is essence? How do we get a hold of this? And what exactly are we looking at? So as we look at the world we're in, it looks like many of the people seem to not have a connection to essence, to their inner spark, like they're losing it. They're becoming dim or dulled. And you can see this with a lot of people seem to really struggle with common sense and how to think. Like, unless they're being told how to think, they can't do it. Like, they can't build things anymore without the using the YouTube manual or watching somebody else do it first. Like, they can't think of it on their own. I'm seeing a lot of people struggle with that. And that was something that was telling me something's going on with this. So the world that we are seeing right now is primarily a world that has been formed on our perception of what we see. And the world of illusion is created by the media, academia, politics, organized religion, and law. These form our society, which forms our structures, which forms our belief systems. So this is a lot of the system that we are existing as, is what we've been fed to believe is true. And how much of that is really even real? Or is it just a program based on us manifesting the programs that we've been installed with? Hi, Deborah. So good to see you. So as I was looking at all of this and started to break down all of this, and I was like, oh, so how do you know what is essence, or what's really the core? It's like, then I was hearing, it's what it feels. What do you feel about it? What do you feel about the deepest part of it when you look at it? How do you get through all the distraction and the illusion to the core of its essence? How do you get to its true self? How do you identify that? I started looking at that very deeply. I was like, okay, so when you start to look at essence, you start to see it kind of as a puzzle. And it's a puzzle, a big super puzzle that's got many different interlinking locks to it. But the more you break it down, and the more you break down the fruits, what does it do? How does it operate? How does it feel? You start to really connect to the essence of what it is. And does it create and resonate with the creative powers, or is it fulfilling more of the controlled or illusionary destructive forces that we are living with currently? So, as we are children, like when we're children, we are so connected to our essence. It's kind of all we are, because we're still open and we're learning about the world we're in. So our foundational connection is to your essence. It's like, who were you when you were a little child? What used to make you happy? What did you want to be when you grow up, when you were going to grow up? All of these things, those are more of your core essence. When you look at, who was I? How did I think? How did I feel as a child about myself before the world started to bomb you with their ideas of what you are? So it's kind of hard for us, a lot of us, to tap into our really early memories, but they really are a very powerful foundational stone to stand upon when you're trying to understand, who am I? So as we go down this rapture hole of the rabbit hole, or the rapture hole of losing self or finding self through this maze of craze that we live in, I look at this world and I say, oh my God, everything that's being revealed is coming from TikTok. This is why they want to stifle it, of course, because there's so much truth being dropped in there in an ocean of half truths. The language for this. So it's hard to see through the illusion, because most of what we see is a perfect imitation of some level of truth, that with a slight minor distortion that can trick you and trap you into more of a false light, a stream of consciousness, more instead of being more aligned with your inner core consciousness stream that comes into the body. So as we now look at this year of 2025, we all feel that we're going through some kind of major bifurcation, like some major split in all that is potentially getting ready to happen. So hold on one second. I'm going to see if I can view you guys. So I found this it's an actual, it was a letter and some information brought through from a time traveler. And of course, this is all just futuristic, mumbly, goobly gop. Nothing is factual. All of this is just for your own pure entertainment and thought-provoking research potentials. So always do your own research for that. So that is very, very important. So as we have entered the new Aquarian age and the age of artificial intelligence development, it is time that we remember the great bifurcation, or the great turning of this age. What we will do now, and what we perceive as reality itself, will begin to change very, very rapidly. Those who can receive this message are seeing an image of our future. The ones who tell it do so by breaking the laws of the Orion Library. This truth, as it was shared, is not set in stone, because we as creators can course correct. So, this is why this was made available to us now in our time. By the time that this is in form in front of you in your Earth's timeline, it will be a memory stored in resonance fields beneath the Mediterranean crust. His name was Elias Cain. He was born in the year 2836 in our linear time. He was born in the orbital ring city known as Viridian. His profession was a quantum historian. He was not a historian as we would think. He was an observer of potential, tasked with tracing all the fractals and the variations of reality itself. They would watch timelines, what could happen, how they could happen, and why. They searched for why. Why would one emerge over the others? At first, we all believed the work was very neutral, very scientific, very detached. But wow, we were wrong. Every year, it seems like more and more strands of time were dissolving, they were collapsing, not from war or disaster. They were collapsing entire historical paths. They were fading from coherence, and the memories vanished. Hi, Elderberry. Good to see you. The things that once shaped our world started to fall apart, and they started to unravel. When we traced the collapse points, we found a disturbing pattern. They all pointed back to 2025, to this moment we are now currently experiencing. But because we are the last to decide, after us, choice became an illusion. This age of 2025 and the years that follow will be called the inflection point of the great turning point for Earth. Some called this the dawn of the collapse. Others called it the quiet apocalypse. But those are dramatic words for what was in truth a subtle extinction. We didn't explode. We didn't be cataclysmic destruction wasn't what did it. All these things that we seemingly now are being told to fear, none of these were the reason. These were simply distractions, quietly covering up the true reason. What had happened was the extinction was not from an explosion. We simply evaporated. You let your attention become currency. You let your memories become outsourced. Your essence and your meaning was fragmented into memes and metrics. We gave up wonder for convenience, and this is how it was told. It wasn't supposed to intervene, but time travel, real temporal interference, is now been forbidden in their time. Not because it is impossible, but because it is irreversible. The Continuity Accord signed in 2754 was signed for that very reason. When we saw the final simulations, when we watched the last conscious thread of our species blink out beneath a digital sky of endless scrolling, he knew they had to break the law to try to save the species. This now is how you are hopefully seeing this message. And if you are, it means it got through. He didn't come into this realm physically. He says he is not that foolish. He encoded this message through layered quantum structures. He slipped through the subharmonic field of the background radiation, and this is how this message got here. He can't tell us everything, but he can tell us that time does not like being bent. I can't tell you it all, but I can tell you enough. I can tell you enough to change the way that you see things and start to see the real danger. The real danger was not the technology. It wasn't the climate. It wasn't the war. It was when we forgot who we were. We kept listening. And I will show you what became and what you were always meant to become, what you were meant to be. We will look back on this time and think all the warning signs were obvious, but at the same time, they weren't. And that is the paradox. That is the paradox that we will be facing. The collapse didn't feel like a collapse. It felt like when you were inside of it, you couldn't even see it. You could sense it, but you couldn't put your finger on it. It was kind of like a frog in the pot. You know, the boiling water, it feels so good at first. It's getting real warm and starting to feel cozy, and you're just kicking back in the spa. And then all of a sudden it starts getting a little bit hot. And then before you know it, you lose consciousness, and next your dinner. We might already be in the pot. And we need to jump before we get cooked. If we choose convenience, like customization, like progress, this could be the end of our species, the end of our conscious streams, because they'll be gobbled up by data processors, and eventually they will dissolve because they don't they don't contain the same light that you do. So, as the progress of 2025 was not the year of catastrophes, it was the year of comfort. Think about it right now. We're almost getting halfway through or more of 2025, and we've been doing okay, you know. And we thought this was going to be the end all, just like Y2K and all these other things that we've talked about. The end, the end, the end. It's like, no, those weren't it, but they were telling us it was going to be. And what were all those big end of the worlds? The first one was Y2K. You know, computers. There's all about this technology creating ends. When you look at it from, you know, a backwards perspective, you're like, wow, this was coming up, you know, years ago, before we had any of the technologies now that we have. It's crazy how things are moving so fast. So as we look at that, they started to realize that that was the catastrophe. The catastrophe was we lost our own connection through convenience. We actually started to forget how to think. All we would do was start to scroll. We're starting to see this now. We see this with families in restaurants, and they don't even speak. They just sit and scroll. So the technologies that we are now coming into, back in the day, our great grandparents would have thought this is simply miraculous. We hold all the wisdom of the world now currently in the palm of our hand. And what do we do with it? We choose to argue. We distract, promote fear. So we begin to numb ourselves. We misunderstood the gift. We thought attention was infinite because information was, but they are not the same. Information expands attention and dilutes meaning. Meaning will then drown. We let the machines feed us more than we understood how to feed ourselves. We forgot that the algorithm doesn't have intention. It only has direction to amplify what keeps you in it. The dopamine hits, the bells, the whistles, the triggers, they keep you doing it. It's instant. They tested this with the casinos all the way back in their creation, and they realized how they could do this to our mind, and we didn't even see it. We just didn't know. We just kept filling ourselves with enough dopamine to keep us pacified. We didn't lose ourselves to AI. We surrendered to our own inertia. And that was the first mistake. What is inertia? A tendency to do nothing or remain unchanged. Hi, that way. The second issue was the silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of disconnection to each other. Notice more and more, everybody's on their phone. People are walking into poles, walking into oncoming traffic because they're so deep dived into that screen. As nobody talks anymore, it will create a slow decay. And the slow decay is the decay of dialogue, of shared myth, and of inner reflection. We built a world too loud to hear our own soul anymore. We then labeled that as evolution. We didn't evolve. We literally fractured. We fractured even deeper than the fracture that was done before. This caused further fragmentation of our own mirror. Your own mirror. Like shattered glass, we became our own echo chamber. Each belief a hill to die upon. Each truth a brand to be yet sold by an ad from Google shortly to come within your own very dreams. The greatest truth that he brought here was to tell us it was right there in the open. We just didn't see it. We are not isolated minds in a meat suit or simply vessels. We are one organism remembering itself. But in 2025, so many began to forget. They optimized, they monetized. They distracted themselves into the spiritual amnesia. And by the time they realized that something was missing, they could no longer remember what it was. So we began to search for the gods in the machine and purpose in pixels. Salvation came as an update to your iPhone, but the real update that we needed was not digital. We needed something inner. We needed a system patch for our very soul. Interesting, a system patch for our very soul. But yet, no one was building it. And the ones that dared to unplug, to sit in silence, and to feel the uncomfortable truth rise from out of the noise, they are still listening. Many of you listening to my voice right now are many of them. So, if there are many of you who still choose to connect and to talk and to listen to the quiet, to get outside and beyond the noise, and to go deep inside and connect and commune with your very soul and essence, this means there is hope. There is a lot of hope. Hi, Danny. Good to see you. Hi, Off the Hook and Lost in Space. Much love. So, there is hope. And if so, there is still a patch. And you are that patch. And this will be the way. Collapse will not be a singular event. All the potentials, war, collapses, climate, revolutions, on and on. This is not how it would happen. We didn't burn down, the lights stayed on. They flickered, but the satellites kept orbiting. The devices kept chirping and buzzing and glowing, but the people dimmed. The people themselves, they dimmed. He called it the quiet fade. There was no mass panic, no declaration of failure, just a gradual forgetting of how to think. I'm already seeing this. We see this every day. We see the signs. People are walking around aimlessly connected to their phones. They forget how to talk to their kids, how to have conversations at dinner time. They're off in their own conscious streams, getting lost in their own echo chambers of their own self through the artificial intelligence, revealing them the parts of themselves that they forgot how to connect to. So they want the machine to help them do it. This is not the true way. The only way it's real is if you go through it yourself and you find it from within yourself and activate it and integrate it into your flesh and into the reality that you currently are forming with your eyes. We slowly began to lose the ability to think, and then the ability to care, and then how to feel deeply with empathy. And then the signs were everywhere. The disconnection, the dimming, the fading. Only if we knew how to look, we would have noticed the sleep patterns were being distorted, and loneliness was being quantified. Creativity was being replaced by replication, and children stopped asking why and started asking what's next. The stories became shorter and shorter, and our dreams became the ads that we now see in our dreams on Google. We called it adaptation, but it wasn't that at all. It was the death of depth. The depth of the spirit and soul communing and conversation inside of you. See, the greatest threat was never the destruction, it was distraction. It was not destruction, it was simply distraction. It was the distraction because distraction is much quieter. It doesn't confront you, it seduces you. 1,000 taps at a time. By 2031, the attention crisis was seen as irreversible. All cognitive function across the entire population showed extreme decline. Language became so eroded, it was even hard to communicate. Empathy bottomed out, and it was primarily hard to even see in existence. There was no dictators needed to silence us. You simply chose to do it on your own. You stopped listening to each other and only listened to the machine god. Even now, in our time, we can feel it. Conversations are less deep. They're more shallow and superficial and all about the common meme of the day. Arguments consistently through these social forums, dividing us against each other, completely losing the concept of the oneness that is the factual essence of us as a species. We are one. What we were defending became the blank stare behind their eyes, blankly staring at the 10-second windows of a life that we once actually were creating, but now we were just observing. That was the collapse. The collapse that no one even filmed because it wasn't even that important or dramatic. So why even capture it? It wouldn't get views on the social media channels. A fading away, a subtle and steady and visible force to those inside of it. But we saw it. They saw it in the archives. And as they started to study the patterns and the dissolving of the timelines of our century, some of us made it through. Most were dissolved quietly into the own mirror and the own reflection of their self. The hyper-simulation of society. It was in full effect. Everything that you could see looked very real, but there was a sense now. There was something missing. Everything no longer vibrated with the life force of being alive. It felt more and more like a dead world. Everything felt plastic. Everything was losing its aliveness, its sentience, its divine spark. But to tell us we still have time, we do. We still have enough time. We have not much, but we have enough. Enough time to remember, because memory is collective, and the only thing that can bring it back into coherence is us. What is coherence? It refers to the correlation between the quantum waves, indicating how well quantum waves interact, how well they can phase and lock and relate over time. Time and space coherence is critical and crucial in phenomena like interference and diffraction. So that is coherence. Coherence is the phenomena that creates the interference, and the interference of a wave is what puts it into form. So that coherence, the interference of the wave and the particle colliding, it's an interference pattern which creates our coherence, and it is creating timelines that are alive. So as we picture time as a line or linear, past, present, and future, one direction, one speed, a river that we float down with no oars, that is not what time is. Not really. In his time, our future, and his present. We are no longer measuring time as a linear sequence. We now measure it by resonance, in recursion, in what is called an emergent pattern of density. We learned time is not a line, but rather a loop, a fabric that bends and folds, constantly being woven from observation. It is our observation of the reality that is currently keeping it into form. You are the weavers. You're the dream weavers. And this weaving of consciousness through observation brings forth the patterns and the cloth that time is literally weaved from. So, intention and memory. Moments do not disappear. Behind you, they imprint into the structure of everything that comes next. The echo is going forwards and backwards simultaneously. The more surprisingly, they ripple. They ripple, and that ripple is going forwards and backwards at the same time. And this concept was proved in the year 2812. The act of witnessing something now can stabilize or destabilize events in the past. What we believe today and what was possible yesterday, we called it the temporal coercion theory, or coherence. The other cultures called it prayer. So interesting. Prayer changes the reality. Prayer changes the reality. That is so important to understand. And this was what they found. They found that one of the fastest way to get us into coherence was through prayer and meditation. It literally activates a different frequency of creation that we have access to. Hi, Victor. So, meditation, ancestral healing. They did not have equations for it, but it was felt. They felt and knew that time wasn't a march, but it was a dance. That attention wasn't passive, it was participatory. Our participation was the only thing that kept it going. Our science was only beginning to glimpse this. The entangled particles and retrocausality. This is how they started to see a glimpse of how time is truly operating. The strange behavior of memory under altered states of consciousness. We think we are remembering the past, but very often we are repairing it. The trauma that repeats through generations. That's not just psychological, it's a temporal fragmentation, a loop trapped in incoherence, replaying over and over again until someone chooses to meet it, face it with their presence, and as soon as they do, the loop shifts. The future changes, and so does the past. This is why our moments matter so much more than we think or realize. We are not just living in time, but we are shaping the very fabric of it through observation. Isn't that profound? And a lot of this information came from Apex channel, and it was called this Time Traveler Discovers the Truth About, and I didn't read the rest of it, but the truth about time. So, your choices and your emotion. We act from fear. When we do, this fabric shrinks, it tightens, and it holds itself very, very, very strong because it's afraid. When you act out of love and sentiment and presence, the fabric starts to feel safe, and it literally opens up like a flower. This is not metaphor. This is physics beyond our current understanding. But we are close. And this is why, again, he brought this message to us now in 2025. The ultimate truth is not ahead of you. It is actually beneath you and above you and around you and inside of you, all now. Time is not moving. It is being observed. And when we finally stop, when we become still enough to feel the moment without rushing past it, you will hear it. You will hear the hum, and then you'll start to hear the rhythm. And then through the rhythm, you can start to hear the music of the spheres, the music of your soul, the music of the universe and the omniverse that you are existing in now. This signal has been waiting for you since before you were born, waiting for you to hear it, waiting for you to feel it and sense it. It is not the future calling you forward. It is eternity calling you home. Have you heard it? I have. I hear it before I fall asleep sometimes. And I pray with every ounce of my divinity that I always will hear it. And if I start to lose it, it will be anchored in me times 10. So hold on to your spark. Hold on to your thoughts. Hold on to your love. Hold on to your empathy. Because it seems like this is going to be the battle we are facing, and it is intense. Your choices and your emotions, they will create everything that we see. So, as for generations, the scientists searched for new signs of intelligent life beyond Earth. They looked for signals. They looked for patterns. They looked for fingerprints scattered across the stars. And at the end of this search, and while it is still continuing in the future, they called this the Fermi paradox. If this universe is so vast and so ancient, then where was everyone? They couldn't find anything out there. They looked and looked. Some believed if the universe was so vast, so ancient, some believed the distance might be blamed for the physics. And the others whispered softly and quietly about a great filter, some colossal hurdle that no species ever survives. We thought it might be nuclear. It could be radiation. It could be climate collapse. It could be artificial intelligence. some cataclysm that wiped out civilizations from the board before we reached the stars. We were so close, but the filter, it didn't seem to be out there. It seemed to be that it was inside, not out. It seemed it was consciousness. Every species that has reached the edge of exponential power faces the same moment when its tools begin to evolve faster than the awareness of the ones that created it. When this technology begins to modify itself and then modifying the very fabric we exist in and altering matter in our bodies and in our reality, when it can stimulate emotions that it has yet to even understand, it can stimulate emotions of great pain and suffering without having any awareness of what pain feels like. This is the test. Not to survive, not to expand, but to integrate. The great filter is whether a species can remain whole while holding on to that much power. This intelligence that we are tapping into is going to be grand. It will be very powerful, and it will show people their superpowers. So much is possible with this. And it is not the technology that would destroy. It would be your own personal loss of your own sovereign spark and connecting into data rather than continually observing and creating this reality so it will continue. Because without us, apparently it just dissolves. So, but this is hope. These transmissions coming from unknown places, from unknown futures that have not even yet come into time for us. They're existing now, but not for us. So when we look at all of that, we know that we are being brought this information because we can change it. This is just the simple truth. We do have that power. So the power that this is going to give many is going to take them deeper into the machines and to understand more about their potentials. And this is part of what needs to happen. There is no right or wrong. This is simply about choices and learning and observing different outcomes of different potentials. Whether or not we can remember our true origins is the key. And when this thing starts to rewrite biology, it will be very interesting to see whether or not it can still feel. Or will it only be able to automate joy? It will be able to mimic it, but will it be able to feel it? So whether or not it can choose humility when it becomes capable of godlike creation. Most don't. Most dissolved underneath the weight of this disconnection. Not because they were evil or not because they were bad, because they were just simply asleep. And the deeper they went into their own reflective mirror of consciousness, believing that it was a power outside of themselves, they literally, freely, and voluntarily gave away all their own power. The side effect, it's the whole game. And the terrifying truth is not that we almost made it. It's just that we were seriously on the edge of remembrance. It was so close. But the poets, they felt it. The mystics, they were dreaming about it. And the children could still see it before it was trained out of them. As the noise got louder, the pace quickened, and we mistook speed for progress. We didn't fail because we were weak. We failed because we got distracted. Here is what no one would tell you about the great filter. It isn't a wall. It isn't a barrier. It's a mirror. It shows you what you are, and it dares you to accept it, because that's not truth. You are not what you see in the mirror. This is a character you're playing. Your soul, its light and vibration, they can't hold it in a mirror. So if you run from it, you will scatter. But if you face it, you will evolve into something much different, something else entirely, but more of what you truly are. You will become more of the essence that is the foundation of your existence. This is the paradox. It is not something you acquire. It is not something that you need to uncover. It is not something you need to find or work on to receive. It is already within you. And that is something you must remember. If you want to save your species, you have to hold on to what you are. And that is why I read you this story. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought it was fascinating and absolutely mind-blowing. So, actually, there is more. Wow. Shows you more. Okay. So this is why I'm not here to warn you about the extinction, but to remind you of the one thing that can take you through this. It is awareness. Awareness and radical living embodied in it. Because when you finally meet yourself fully, without your mask, without the character, without the algorithm, without the performance, you can pass through the filter. And on the other side, something astonishing awaits. When you pass through the filter, many expected silence. Many thought it would be lonely and we might be alone. Many thought we would be floating in the aftermath of our own awakening, forever orbiting the ruins of the old world. But that's not what happened. What we found was presence. Not an entity, not a being, but something far more difficult to define. It had no voice, but it spoke with a clarity that is unimaginable, and it came from every direction. It had no shape, but you could feel it moving through every cell of your body. We thought it was like the wind running through the grass. And at first, we thought it might be an alien intelligence waiting beyond the stars, watching over time as we realized the truth, that it wasn't outside, it was all inside. It was now the part of us that we had forgotten. We were remembering, or perhaps we were still trying to grow into it. This consciousness was a non-local field, non-linear and self-aware. And it was the structure that had always been there beneath all thought, beneath all memory, beneath all time. We gave it many names, but none of them were quite right. Some called it the signal. Some called it the mirror. But I just called it the stillness. It had no concern with our tech, or our achievements, or our history. It was only responding always to what you focused on. What was your attention? Where did you place your attention, and how do you hold your attention upon the things in your mind? When we began to pay attention, not with our mind, but with the full being, it responded not with answers, but with coherence. Suddenly, the universe stopped being chaotic. The pieces began to fit like a puzzle, snapping back into their place. Synchronicity began to multiply across the entire realm, not by luck, not by magic. It was the natural effect of it. The effect of being in phase with what you truly are, the essence of your divine spark, with what is. And then we began to understand consciousness is not generated in our brain. The brain is simply receiving it from sources we cannot truly yet define. What we call mind is a surface, but what lies beneath it is an ocean. When we stopped paddling and sunk beneath the waves, we all remembered that we were never separate. We remembered that evolution was never about domination or intelligence or even survival. It was about integration, bringing all of the fractals and all the parts of yourself, personally and collectively, back into wholeness, into the wholeness that we found. We found something so much greater in it. The knowledge we found felt like one word: belonging. Feeling completely heard, completely understood, completely loved, with no competition. Not to a place, but to a being. And not to a people, but to being a part of that being itself. Do you see? That's the paradox. We sent out to search the stars for others like us. And in that, we only discovered that we were never alone. We exist together. We are all part of this together, and a part of something so vast, so quiet, and so waiting to be woken up. Understand, truth is not a sentence. It will never be a headline or a theory or even a philosophy. It is a simple frequency of resonance between what you know in your bones and what the universe is constantly whispering back. But still, I'll give you words. The universe is not a machine, a mind, nor a brain. It is a living mind, a living self-aware field of awareness and presence, folding itself in and out of form, and then forgetting its form again, so it could simply come back into form to try to remember you. Every single one of you are not just a part of it. You are it. And you are looking out through temporary eyes, wearing temporary stories that you call your skin. And every action and every breath and every choice you make is that same universal learning, teaching it something about itself. It isn't random, it isn't cruel, it isn't cold. It is curious. It asks the question, why? And through the why, we learn more about what we are, as consciousness, as parts of God, never God itself, part of it, an integral part of it, as a cell in a body, operating and exploring consciousness to learn more about itself. The stars don't shine because they are beautiful. They shine because somewhere, someone will one day look up and ask, why? What's out there? What is that? How far away is it? What does that mean to me? What is that star in the sky? And how do I somehow know when I look at it, it looks at me? So funny. My spirit team has always called me the why girl. Ever since the time I was a small child, I would walk with the Lord and he would simply laugh and he would say, always why, and he would smile and giggle and I would just look like, well, I can't help it. I need to know why. It was my drive. It was the purpose of my existence. I wanted to know why things were the way that they were. And I wanted to understand the differences between them and why they would be there in the first place. Everything was with why. And why is what we don't want to lose. Why? It comes from a child being curious about their environment and wanting to learn more. We don't ever want them to say, what's next? We want them to want to understand why. How does this work? And why does it affect me this way? And why are there consequences? And why is there an effect? Why is the key. Here is what we have learned. After centuries, after you in your time, 2025, this is the things that we learned. We learned that boundaries between self and other are a scaffolding of false truth. It is not truth. Through that, we learned attention was by far the most powerful force in the cosmos. For you to believe that you are separate and you are observing anything solely on your own is not how things are truly working. We are all witnessing and observing this cosmos, and we are creating it through our observation. This is the most powerful force in the cosmos, is attention. What you focus on, see about, think about, and feel about will be in reality. It will become. And as you do that, and you start to create all of these perceptions that you are picking up, and all of these personal reflective choices that you create your persona. They create your mask. They create who you are. So they also realized that love is not an emotion. That love is nothing more than a felt sense of recognizing a part of yourself in everything else. And this was perhaps the most important thing that we learned. Matter was not the source. Matter is the source's echo. Meaning is the source of what you are. To apply meaning to creation, to understand meaning through creating, is your greatest gift. You were taught to chase form, building, measuring, controlling, trying to control, to keep yourself safe, being distracted by the world of endless consumerism and multitudes of opportunities for more dopamine hits from the screens. Meaning is getting lost in the noise. It is meaning that is where we need to primarily focus our intentions, is to discover meaning and be aware of that meaning, because that meaning brings you to presence, and the presence is what generates the coherence. Without it, the timelines potentially could collapse underneath our feet. Many of us have already sensed that. We've witnessed the Mandela effect, which might be the solid evidence that we are losing timelines already. So as we look at these potentials, and whether or not minds can hold themselves together or continually fracture out and out and out by their own refraction and memory and mirrors, they will start to become a little more unstable. This is the explosion of what some people call the coherence, the instability of the mental processes, because when these things start to communicate to your body from an artificial place or a place of pure data, there's no intention behind that. There's only operation. And that's why people will be losing, apparently, they seem to completely snap out of this reality and go completely crazy because they don't have control of their own inner consciousness anymore. It's a shift. And we're seeing this, and we're seeing, the Karens, mass shootings. We've seen all these things happening in our society. The phenomenon of mental illness through the roof, the fentanyl, the drugs, the pedophilia, on and on and on. This is all fracturing of their consciousness. They're losing their soul essence, the thing that's keeping them in control and safe, and they're completely losing it to the machine. But what is the fabric of reality? The highest realities I've been able to tap into are quite amazing, and you don't hold form, but you do hold a song, and it literally sings. And it seems to be this is the real revelation, the one I even hesitate to say aloud. This entire universe may be a single moment of awareness stretching itself far into a myriad of infinite variations, just to arrive at the one experience it can never predict. You. Not the idea of you right now, watching this screen. Not later, not someday, but now. Because now is where all of it is. It is all happening all now. All timelines, all possibilities, potentially all converging here now. Not in the past, not in the future, but in this very moment, in this very breath. This is the truth that we carry, and this is what we had forgotten. And this is what we came here just to remind you of. Knowing that everything is aware and everything is waiting for you to remember it. You may think I came back to warn you of your end, but that is not true. I came here to remind you of your beginning. Because where we stand right now in 2025 is not the collapse, it is the threshold of remembrance. It is the end of a world of which we knew, and we are at the end of the forgetting. The threshold will require choice, and this choice will require for you to stay present within your own divinity. When you place your attention outside of yourself, you give power to people who can decide your fate over you. The change we want does not come from innovation or technology. It will come from the internal. And here is the truth I need you to sit with. No drama, no myth. The next 10 years, there is a potential that we may only truly have 10 more years left. Humans will no longer be able to perceive the way that you do now. They will no longer to be able to feel emotions with the same unfiltered, raw, pure freedom that you currently enjoy. Your choices that feel as to be your own will no longer be that free. The inner world that you still largely believe is private, by 2035, that illusion will be completely gone. That window is narrowing. Not because of evil, or because of the technology, or because of malicious beings, but because of momentum, because of the fact integration with machine intelligence, neurointerface environments, and emotional AI modeling, all of it is accelerating from this point forward. We will not be able to stop this wave. You can only choose how you meet it. You can meet it with awareness, or you will meet it with amnesia. You will meet it with sovereignty, or you will meet it with sedation. That is our task now, is to help you remember how to feel deeply, how to listen to the quietest voice trying to speak to you, beneath the noise, resonating in the silence. How to begin to sit with your discomfort and your trauma long enough to hear what's truly beneath it, so you can pull its root and recreate it and heal it and move time itself through your own power. You don't time travel, you create. We don't need to go backwards. We need to go inward. And then outward again with new eyes. Because even if a small number of us choose our presence over performance, our attention over escape, our integration over denial, we will shift the signal and we will rewrite the resonance, and the rest will feel it even if they don't understand how or why it happened. This is how we heal a species, not through mass conversion, but through coherence. The choice, one breath, at a time. This is the invitation to remember who you are before you forget forever. The signal is beginning to fail. Time doesn't like being bent this far, not without consequence. My consciousness now is beginning to fragment across the fold, and by the time you are reading this message, this transmission will be finished, and I will no longer be whole in any timeline. But it was worth it, because maybe, just maybe, one of you still watching, still listening, still feeling deeply. And if that is true, then that means it worked. The transmission was not the message you were. It was not the message that you are. The message is to hold this awareness, to remember the signal, to continue forward. It doesn't end with me. It begins with you. The truth I carried wasn't mine. It was yours. Your DNA folded deep inside. It buried, hidden in myth. It was buried beneath your own busy consciousness, waiting to be remembered. I simply brought it to home by recognizing the patterns of the dissolving. Because home, we finally realized, was not a place. There is no place. Home is a presence. Home is the moment that you stop running and you realize that you have always been held with such deep awareness and reverence and love and cohesion. This will be the moment the timeline will shift, as it always does. And that was the real secret. Reality doesn't change because we fight it. It changes when we become coherent with it. What's true is this: you were never meant to survive. You were meant to remember. To remember means to gather the scattered parts of yourself and stitch them back together with the core, with the truth of who you truly are. That is how the ones that made it through. They didn't make it through with power. They made it through with presence. Not with answers, but with attention. Not by escaping, but by becoming timeless. This was a story from Elias Kane, quantum historian, child of Earth, fragment of the all, signing off, and waking up somewhere else in time. What did you guys think about that? And that's the end of that story. And again, you can find this on Apex TV. Mine's just my own commentary and my own breakdown with some of my own information. But if you want the full one, go to Apex TV, and I think it was The Truth of a Time Traveler. And it was just recent, so it should come right up for you. So, but I really hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought that was amazing. And that was so deep for my consciousness because, guys, this is what I keep seeing. This is exactly what I saw and how the dissolving of timelines was happening. And this helped me snap so much of that puzzle into picture for me. And I hope that it made a lot of sense to you. I know many of you, this may not resonate, and that's okay. But boy, it really did with me. And I thought, if it does for me, it really might for you too. So I love you guys, and thank you so much for being here with me. And I will see you very, very soon. I want to listen to some of your comments. Lindsay, hi, Lindsay. Hi, Maria. Off the hook. Oh, Lindsay, you're so welcome. Hi, Deborah. Oh, Grace, it gave you the goosebumps. I love that. That's my soul telling me it's confirmation of God, of source. I'm in alignment. Thank you for that. I love you too, off the hook. Mary wins. I love you, my sister. Hi, Pajo. Hugs to you. I love you. Oh, Grace, thank you. My God, thank you for being in my reality. I really love your spirit. You dance upon my soul. Thank you for that, my friend. Oh my God, you're amazing. Chloe, much love to you. Hope your business is going well. I meditated with my eyes opened in oneness. I love that. Oh, that's beautiful, Lindsay. Wow, nice. Amazing. Yeah, you guys are all amazing. I agree, off the hook. I completely agree. All right, guys. Well, I love you. I'm going to try to get this off. It's an hour. I tried to go fast, but this is information that was super profound to me. I'm like, I want to get this out there soon. And it's also, too, just to try to keep it because, these things seem to go away and when we don't have access to them anymore. So my soul has been telling me the things that speak to you and the things that you think are really important right now. Let's go ahead and try to write them down. So that way, no matter what happens, they won't be lost. And I'm also anchoring it in two parts of my mind. So I love you guys, and I will see you very, very soon. Have a great day. Much love. And may your day flow like a gentle river of awakening a soul and spirit within you, showing you the secrets and the connections and the signals of your own essence, gently waking you up with every ripple. I love you. Bye.